Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County meeting. Today we have a special public hearing. Today is Tuesday, February the 21st, and this hearing is for a public hearing based on some property. So I'll ask our attorneys to come forward to give a brief explanation on what the hearing is for and see who may be here today to give any input, and then we'll move forward with our regular meeting.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ma'am Miller, Macon-Bibb County. We're here for a public hearing regarding the abandonment of about 3/4 of an acre of defunct roadway along Old Hawkinsville Road. This roadway has not been maintained. It goes back to 1892 in our records. However, we can't find evidence of a formal abandonment. So we're going ahead holding a public hearing. Just for your information, there are two private owners that abut this portion of property. One is the Norfolk Southern Railway, who has received letter notification of this hearing and the petition filed to purchase it, and then the petitioner who seeks to join his two parcels of property by purchasing this defunct roadway.
Okay, thank you for that information. Do we have anyone here in the chamber today who would like to speak for or against that issue, or has any questions about that particular transfer? I take it we have met all of our legal obligations as far as publishing that in the appropriate places, and this is the only one hearing that we'll have on this matter.
That is correct, sir. Yes.
Okay. At this time, I'll take a last call for anyone here to speak in the public hearing concerning the property mentioned before. Okay, it appears that we don't have anyone interested in speaking on that today, so we'll move forward accordingly. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to our pre-commission meeting. And that's the pre-commission meeting acting as a committee of the whole. We have several items on the agenda, and we have our regularly scheduled meeting at 6 o'clock, which will include our consent agenda. The first item on the agenda is item 1A, which is the approval of the minutes from February the 7th, 2023 meeting. Can I get a motion for approval? Motion by Commissioner Tillman. We have a second by someone. Second by Commissioner Wynn. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. We're going to move on to appointments to authorities, boards, and committees, and we have several of those tonight as well. The first one is item 2A, which is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to appoint Deborah Garcia to serve as a member of the Macon-Bibb County Transit Authority. I see Ms. Garcia here today. Thank you for being here today, and this is one of the positions that we do by recommendation, and it's according to protocol, and I believe this is this particular position here is someone who rides the bus. Is that correct? Okay, and thank you for being here tonight, and we've already received your information. I know Mr. Ross is here with you tonight, and this is a recommendation. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Tillman, second by Commissioner Watkins. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'm sorry.
I'd like to have the director to talk just a minute about the proposed rate increases. You remember at our last meeting, I mentioned that there were some folks who had some concerns about the rate increases.
Yeah, I'll see if
I'll
see if you talk about that in just a second, but I'd like to go ahead and go forward with this committee appointment, if that's okay. I think that's separate and distinct between this particular person that we're trying to do, but I'll be happy to ask him that question after we take this vote.
Whatever, as long as we...
Yeah. We do have a motion and second. If there's no further discussion concerning this particular applicant or recommendation, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. This time I'd ask Director Ross, if you don't mind coming up there to answer or tell us what you may. We did have a question or concern at our last meeting. I know that you've had some meetings over there already and people have come to discuss that. Right. Commissioner Lucas had mentioned that she had received several inquiries about the rate increase, and she just asked for a little bit more information so she can let her people know.
Sure. For the last 2 weeks, my administrative staff has been riding all the buses on all the routes to inform the passengers of the rate increase. We've not had anybody to have a concern with it. Here's what we're doing. If you ride a bus now, it's $1.25. If you get if you pay for a transfer, that's 50 cents, so it's $1.75. So what we've done is increase our rate from 125 to 175, and it will include one transfer. I didn't come prepared to speak on it, so I don't have all my notes with me, but there's not any large increases at all. And like I said, we've ridden every bus, and there has not been anybody that has spoken against it. Matter of fact, they said it's fair. We will wait about 3 weeks. We will ride the buses again and do the same thing to make sure we get more feedback. And then after that, we'll put it in the paper. We'll have a 30-day notice for a hearing, and we'll have a hearing the 1st of June. There will be 2, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And then after the second, the board will vote to make this permanent. And the rates will go into effect on July the 1st.
Okay. And my understanding is that when's the last time you had a rate increase?
15 years ago,
Okay.
2008.
But there's still some hearings left to go before a final decision is made by your department?
Oh yeah, we'll be riding the buses. We're meeting people at the terminal station, so we're getting the word out. Of course, we will have 2 hearings.
Okay. Commissioner Lucas, do you have any follow-up questions before I go to Commissioner Watkins?
Macon does have a high number of folks who do live in poverty, and there are probably a lot of people who haven't had a salary increase or anything to speak of for 15 years as well. And so I just think we need to always be aware of what our community looks like and what resources the folks who what was the percentage? Commissioner Watkins at one time had the numbers of folks without a car in Macon-Bibb. The poverty level, I know, is almost at 30%. And I just think that when we do this, it might not seem like to us, because we have transportation, you know, we go get in it and go where we want to go. But many of our other citizens don't have that advantage. One other thing, did the Transit Authority receive any federal monies?
Of course.
What did you receive? This is in addition to what we appropriate.
Total was like 6.2 million, I think was the number, so it would have been 3.
Okay,
Somewhere
what
there
were
were
the
3 million.
uses, the allowed uses of that money?
Purchase buses, maintain what buses that we have. We're expanding our parking area in the back, which is going to be about $6 million. That's federally funded, already been approved. That will be where we house all of our electric buses. We're about to receive, well, we're supposed to receive 3 paratransit electric buses in December, but there's a parts issue and we're having to wait on that. So I'm not real sure when we will get those. But then we've ordered 3 more, so that'll give us 6 paratransit buses. We're about to order 3 more transit buses, and those are about $800,000. We only have to pay 10.
What else? Those are fine uses. What else could that money? What else was allowed for?
Well, we got a grant for we applied. This was in part of the dollars that we are getting a $1.2 million new software program that's going to provide a lot more information for the riders. It'll call out the ADA stops for us. A customer, which if y'all been around long enough, you know I've been trying to have on your phone where you could go in and look and see where your bus is in real time. That's going to be that'll be part of that'll go live in April.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be able to show us the times that if the buses are on time. We're going to open up South Bibb as soon as we can get enough drivers. We're getting close. We've never had routes in South Bibb. and it's gonna take about 2 routes on that. That'll cover everything from Irvin Paper all the way over to I-75 with Tyson and Tractor Supply.
I think that's great. My only concern is that the total amount of additional funds that were received by the Transit Authority was, what would you say, 6 million? Was bus purchase the only thing that you could use the money for?
No, it's for operation and everything else. You catch me off guard because I don't have all the information in front of me. If I'd have known you wanted this, I'd have brought it in and
Well,
asked it.
now, I know you know transit.
I do.
So that's why I know you know it. And my only question was, is that the only thing, the purchase of new buses, is that the only thing that $6 million could be used for? And if you're not prepared, then we can do it some other time, but I think that's a question to ponder. Could some other things have been done? But I know y'all made the best decisions that you could. Was there a vote already, or when is the vote scheduled to take place, the final vote?
It'll be
this?
It'll be the first week of June, excuse me. Be the first week of June. We're gonna have two.
All right, thank you. I appreciate
Thank you. Thank you.
indulging.
I think I got one more question here. Commissioner Watkins, you want to?
Yes,
something
thank
about
you,
that?
sir. And again, appreciate you coming here today and sharing with us what you can such short notice. And for me, again, I don't ride the buses, but the change seems somewhat small. But again, it's not impacting me every day. And as Commissioner Lucas said, we do have a lot of folks living in poverty, that small numbers over the course of a week, over the course of a year, can tend to add up. So I guess I'm curious on, like, I know you mentioned that it was been 15 years since we've adjusted it. But when it comes to like your total budget, what percentage do the fees make up of? I know you get most of your revenue from the county and the feds and then the fees, if I'm understanding correctly.
This will help us with incidental expenses that we have. This will add probably another $300,000 thereabouts to it. For instance, we have an issue on the south side of our building, which is of our maintenance building, which is, if you've been to the transit office, they're huge bricks that the previous owner had put down the side between us and Nextran. And we got a call from Nextran a couple of months ago, and that wall, if you will, fell over into his property. And we had 5 of those huge bricks. We had an estimate to fix that and get it all taken care of so that won't happen again, and it's $117,000.
And that's fascinating, but I guess you mentioned that $300,000 is what you expect this increase to generate.
Yes, and
that'll
give us,
on top of what, I don't know what the base is. Like,
I think we were right about a little over $1 million in that.
and what's the total budget of the authority?
Around 6.2.
Okay, that was at 6.2 from earlier. So fees make up, I guess, 1/6 of the total thing.
And thereabouts, yeah.
Okay. And
But there's some things, like I said, excuse me for interrupting, that transit, that the FTA will not handle, and they would not pay for that wall. So that was $117,000 out of our pocket.
but you expect this to generate, if ridership stays the same, an additional $300,000 a year?
Well, we're hoping it's going to increase ridership because, like I said, it was $1.25. A transfer was 50 cents, so they're paying $1.75 anyway. So people that are riding the bus and paying $1, buying the bus fare plus the transfer, it's not going to be any increase to them. But people that don't buy the transfers, then it'll be that $1.75 will go straight to us.
Right. So for those
Yeah.
people, I mean, you're expecting that to generate an additional
Yeah,
$300
and plus
based
we're
on people.
reducing our transfers from 50 cents down to a quarter. And we've made we have a something we're doing this year that we've never done before is have a one-day pass. It'll be $4.25. And if, like on the 3rd of the month, when a lot of folks, that's our busiest time, need to go pay bills, they can buy that pass and ride all day long and take care of their business.
So I'm familiar with, I think I've seen an article or two, and you might have mentioned a little bit that there's a driver shortage.
Yeah, it is.
When's the last time have you been able to raise your salaries for
We
drivers?
have, and that was a lot of the budget as well. Plus, we're giving them a $1,500 sign-on bonus. So that's generating some. We've been real fortunate over the past month that we've had a lot of school bus drivers to come over and work part-time, so we can use those folks on Saturdays. Our overtime last year was over $1 million, and we were working our people to death. And we cut back on some routes that had 2 buses, what we call Block 1 and Block 2, but they're all back online again. So we're trying to overcome that problem. But I think we're like 7 full-time drivers short, and we'll be back to normal. Then we can open up the South Bibb County.
And out of curiosity, the salary increased from what to what?
Well, we don't give blanket raises. We do it on the performance of the driver. So
I mean, like, I guess the entry level salary, like,
starts at 15.
starts at 15. What did it start at?
Now,
what
if
did
we-
it start at before?
Oh
You
gosh,
have-
when I got there, it was 11.35. So we've raised the rate, we've raised the salary increases for the employees. We've had our insurance. We had some pretty rough times with accidents last year, so our increase on insurance was fairly high. I can't give you the number right off the bat. Our workman's comp went down significantly, but that we saved money there. But again, between your salaries, your overtime, that's a good portion of a business's.
Right, of course. And I know you mentioned that you were 7 short. How many bus drivers are full staff?
We'll have about 85 by the
85,
time it's
wow.
over. Well, that's 85 employees. We'll have about 45 to 50 drivers.
Wow. Okay.
And our goal is to be able to have some spare drivers at the terminal station, so when we can afford to give our other guys a break once a day. So
Appreciate you indulging me. Thank you.
Commissioner Lewis, you had a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. I wanted to ask, Mr. Ross, is there still a free service provided to Mercer?
it's not free.
How is that worked
Them
out?
80 we charge them $85 an hour. That's about what it costs to run a bus.
So Mercer pays
They do.
pays that for the students.
Yeah, they do.
Right. Is there any free service that's
Yeah.
provided?
Yes, we have free service for veterans 65 and over. That's for life. The only thing they have to do is go down to the terminal station and go to our office there and get a badge that looks similar to this. It'll have their name and their picture on it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing they have to show is that. Children 12 and under ride free with a parent. 3 children will be the limit on that. And then we have student fares that's went from 75 cents to $1. And that's about it.
Okay, but it seems like there was a time when there was free service that was given.
We had, during the time that the fuel crisis hit us, we were at one time paying about $23,000 a month for fuel. We're now averaging $53,000 for fuel. At one time, we even hit $93,000. So that has that's another thing that has kind of bit into our budget. It was not last year, well, the year before, actually, the fiscal year. We were not anticipating that, so that's when we came in and asked for American Relief Fund. So that's taking care of that. So we're in good shape there. But the electric buses, it's funny. It's the fuel's going to cost us $3 or $4 a gallon, but the 4 or 5 electric buses that we have, plus our terminal station, which is $10,000 a month, and then ours is about $4,000 a month, and that includes the electric buses. So that's going to save us money in the long run. And we've had real good luck with those. And like I said, we're about to order 4 more transits. So.
Okay, and I appreciate you. I'm glad that we were able to ask these questions. Thank you. My final thing is, I will be communicating with the members of your board. It might not do any good, but as one commissioner representing an awful lot of these folks, I'm going to ask them to not vote to increase the rates on citizens who are already paying and on those citizens who contributed to that $6 million that you got from the federal government and the $2 million that this commission voted, when was that? We voted to throw that in the pot for the electric buses. Julie, you remember? How long?
That's a SPLOST, right?
And well, citizens, these same folks
I
that were
understand.
that were raising the rate on, those same people paid into that. Everybody pays taxes, and so I'm going to personally ask each one not to vote for that increase, and ask that you make your adjustments based on the other increases that you're getting and that additional monies. It might not go anywhere, but I'm just one who feels like that the folks who have to depend on that service should not have that increase, even as small as it is. It's still like, what's the percentage?
Of what now? I'm sorry.
The percentage of increase.
Gosh, it's not, but maybe 10 or 15%. It's not much. But
It's going from what to what?
it's going from $1.25 to $1.75. But people that
Okay,
are buying
divide
transfers,
50 into 125.
but people that are buying transfers do not have to pay for them anymore. So that's not going to be $1.75 plus another 50 cents, which would have been 2. We're one of the lowest fares, but bus-wise in the state.
Right.
So-
We've got a high instance of
So-
percentage of poverty too. But I appreciate you answering. You've been very kind to answer those
if
questions.
you want me
That's
back
just me.
and let me know, I'll come back with the facts and figures, and then I'll let you see it. And I'll make copies of them for you too.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mr. Ross. Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. We're going to move on to item 2B, which is a resolution reappointing Jan Beelan to serve as a member of the Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority. I think most people know Ms. Beelan. She's done a great job there, and they've asked for her to be reappointed back to the Urban Development Authority. So this time I entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item C is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission appointing Lisa Berrien to serve as the Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority. Ms. Berrien, I believe, is here today. I think I saw her. Good to see you. She'll be replacing Cole Thomason, which is an old position that's been around for a while that we're getting around to replacing. You should have copies of all of her information. Of course, she came through a great recommendation. We're pleased to have her as our recommendation today. And at this time, I entertain a motion for approval for Ms. Berrien. Okay. I got one from Mr. Wilder and a second from Commissioner Tillman. And Ms. Berrien, if you don't mind, if you come up to the microphone, I think Ms. Lucas likes to put everybody through some punishment here, so we're going to have you tell. Oh, you'll see her. If you don't mind, just tell her how excited you are to serve on this development authority and what your plans are going to do and how well you're going to work as a team with everybody else here and why we selected you.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for allowing me the opportunity. And secondly, my goal is to learn more specifically of the role. They've been talking to me about it, and I am excited about it. And I want to do the best job that I can through research and learning and being strategic about the charge that I've been given.
Anything else, Commissioner Lucas? Okay. Thank you for being here tonight. We do have a motion and second. If there's no further discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Will be sent to consent agenda tonight. Item D is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commission reappointing Scott Pipkins to post 2 and Kruna Patel to post 3 of the Construction Board of Appeals. Both of those positions are up for renewal. They've done a good job and they meet all the qualifications. So at this time, I entertain a motion for reappointment approval on those 2 gentlemen. Motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any further questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. We have a couple of alcohol beverage licenses tonight, which I think is only 2. The first is item 3A, which is the Bulldogs Bar and Grill located at 3750 Bloomfield Village Drive. And we'll have our attorney give us a little information about that before we vote.
And good afternoon, Commissioners. Assistant County Attorney Frank Howard, and I recommend approval of this alcohol license. They had all required documentation for this license.
Okay. And all the paperwork's been provided to you. They do meet all the statutory and legal qualifications for being open. This is over in the area of S&S Cafeteria on Eisenhower Parkway, if you're not familiar with that. And this time, I entertain a motion for approval. I got a motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by who is that? Commissioner Watkins? Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Watkins. Any questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item B is Happy Enjoy BP, DBA Happy BP, Inc., located at 5394 Thomason Road, Macon, Georgia. Most of you familiar with this. Is right next to churches and right next door to Captain D's on Thomason Drive. Same thing as recommendations for approval. They're in good standing and meet all the other legal and statutory qualifications. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Commissioner Jones moves to approve. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Thank you, Attorney Howard. Item 4A is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Middle Georgia Outdoor Lighting to perform lighting installation services at West Macon Park in the amount of $125,100 to be paid from the Capital Improvements Fund, Recreation, Building, and Building Improvements line item. This previously came before, I believe, on the CIP. It was approved. This is the awarding of the contract. So this time, I'd entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Wilder, second by Commissioner Wynn. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. This right side over here is pretty strong. The left side is a little weak over here today. Item 4B is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to Macon-Bibb County agreement with Cherry Street Capital Fund for the construction of new solar rooftop projects, Macon-Bibb County Fire Station number 7, Macon-Bibb County Bloomfield Library, and Macon-Bibb County Facilities Building to provide solar power at no added cost to Macon-Bibb County. This is part of our longstanding agreement approved by this commission with Cherry Street Energy, and our facilities has been doing an evaluation along with them to determine the time, place, and manner of this installation. So this time we entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Wynn. Do we get a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Watkins, you have a question?
The agreement we have with them is there's energy generated and something happens?
Sure. I'll let our attorney do that. How many years have we done this for?
This has been several years.
Right,
This has been
okay.
ongoing. This will be our 7th amendment to this. So solar panels are installed on county-owned facilities, and they generate energy for those buildings. We aren't able necessarily with these setups to sell energy back. That's not feasible with what we have right now. But the solar panels are installed at no cost to us. We get to use that energy, and it helps us offset a little bit.
I never heard a presentation where someone was quantifying the offset. Does anybody in our organization?
Well, this has been since 2016, and I know when
Yeah, I'm
we
not
got,
disagreeing
I got
with
here.
that, but I guess I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anybody prepared to do something that's been done every year, but this is a project where you capture electricity, and the overall rate is a decreased amount that Macon-Bibb County has to pay. As far as an evaluation on the process, I'm not sure when the last computation has been done on that, but these are new installations.
I do not
Maybe
have
I'm
that
answering the question
information.
right. I'm sorry.
But I can see if Mr. Riles can get that together for us. It doesn't take care of all of the energy for the buildings, but it does take care of some of it and offset it. But I'll see if he can get some offset information for you.
Or I'm just in general, maybe even, I don't know, like I say, I know we've been doing it for a while. I see the solar panels on our building. Again, does it offset it? I like for my budget and conversations about electricity, I've only ever heard of the numbers going up. Don't recall of anybody ever like anecdotally being like, hey, our electricity bill is down. We just installed a thing. So just curious on that, not trying to dispute it, just hadn't never seen any follow-up information other than the fact that we installed them.
I'll see if Mr. Riles can get that together for us and the offset of what necessarily it would be. There's not a true baseline.
Yeah, and maybe offset's not the right word, but I'm sure there's some calculation on how many megawatts these things produce per day versus how much we use or something, right?
Yes, sir.
Whatever the however you quantify it, nobody don't have to create nothing new, just, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Commissioner Wynn?
Yes, sir, thank you. The solar panels are free, so I mean any savings to us is a savings to us, whether it be just a small offset, half of the money needed for the electricity. I think it's fine. I mean, I don't know why we want to question that, but if you want to get somebody to tell us how much of a savings, that would be good. But the solar panels that are being put on there are free, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I agree with both of you. We'll certainly comply with Commissioner Watkins' request. I believe Commissioner Wynn makes a valuable point as well. I've also questioned, that's why we didn't do them at the Centraplex. I want some real data at some point in time to show that this is actually working before we just having another company come in to put these things. They're not always, in my opinion, the most attractive in certain areas, but I do not mind them when they're on top of buildings and other things that would save us some money. So we'll get to that. If you look back at the contract that you signed a couple of years ago, there were some estimates on there about how much it was supposed to drop it by and how much the average price was supposed to be after a year of collecting certain power on there, and it reduced it by a few cents per whatever. But I'm certainly willing to reach out to Mr. Riles later on to find out if he can give us any document. And I'm sure Cherry Street Energy would be perhaps wanting to do the same thing to justify all the work that they've been doing. So we do have a motion and second. If there's no further questions concerning this item, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item C is a resolution Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the mayor to execute an independent contractor agreement with Macon Area Habitat for Humanity in the amount of $289,022 to be paid from Home Investment Partnership Funds, which is something we did with CASA last time with River Edge. The construction of 2 new detached single-family residential homes. And I saw Ms. Hall here today. If you don't mind, if you'll come up here and give us a brief explanation about this process and what this means for citizens of Macon-Bibb County.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, for the opportunity to come and for the ongoing support of our home applications. This is an application that we are grateful to put in almost every year, and it allows us to use funds through the Home Partnership grant to build 2 new homes. Both of these homes will be built in the Linmore Estates neighborhood. We do already have homeowners qualified for them, and the 2 pieces of property that we will be working on have seen some dumping on them and some overgrowth, and so we're excited to be able to get those cleared and get those back on the tax rolls. Just as a reminder, we work with low-income homeowners, so between 25 to 80% of area median income, and are typically first-time home buyers, homeowners that would not be able to walk into a traditional lender to get a mortgage. And then the home funds are a loan, essentially, to us. We do pay them back through program income over the life of the mortgage.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Sure.
Any questions for Ms. Hall? Hearing no questions at this time, we entertain a motion for approval. A motion by Commissioner Howard. Do we have a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Commissioner Lucas, you have a question?
Yes. Does the organization still have any surplus properties? Do y'all have properties that you've not built on?
Not a lot right now. We are
How
almost.
many?
We may be down to, I think it's less than 5 inland more estates, and some of those are not buildable.
What are your plans for the property?
The property that's not buildable, we will be reaching out to the surrounding property owners to see if they'd like it. If not, we'll continue to maintain it. Some of it serves on, or is on an outlier street of the neighborhood, Worsham Avenue, and is on the outside. So we have, that property we are leaving as green space to provide an additional buffer between the neighborhood and the railroad track.
Okay. Were these properties purchased through home funds as well?
These were not. These 2 properties were given to the organization several years ago by individual donors.
Okay. But y'all don't have a tax liability or anything on it.
We have been paying property taxes, yes, on the property that we own, and now there are some changes through state legislation that was passed last spring that would change that going forward. But at this time, we pay property taxes on all of the property that we own. Where I refer to putting it back onto the tax rolls is for property that previously, before we acquired it, was tax delinquent. And so a good portion of the property that we receive is tax delinquent at the time that we receive it.
Okay. Do you mind, what's the full amount of your budget?
The full amount of our budget this year is a little bit different thanks to the generosity of all of you and the Peyton Anderson Foundation. With the additional rescue plan funding and matching gift. This year our budget is $2.5 million. On a typical year, outside of that additional funding, we're about $1.5 million.
Okay. Y'all do a lot of good work.
Thank you.
What's your staff size? Your
8.
local?
8.
There are 8 people?
Yes. Maximum staff is 10. And that is including our administrative staff, our restore staff, and our construction team.
Okay. And those people do what? What are those 8 positions?
So we have one position that is our Office and Family Services Manager. She works directly with our homeowners from the time they put in their application until they pay off their home. We do service 75 mortgages at this time for our homeowners. We have an outreach manager that oversees our marketing efforts, our social media, our special events, and all of our volunteer opportunities. We have a restore manager, a restore cashier, a driver that picks up donations for our restore, and then a full-time and part-time donation associate. We have a construction manager that oversees our construction. Right now we do have an interim construction manager that's working with us while we try to fill that position full-time. And then we also have a construction assistant that does a little bit more hands-on on the job site.
Okay. Do you have any women employed with, other than yourself?
Yes, I do. Our Office and Family Services Manager, our Outreach Manager, and our cashier.
So there are, what, 4 out of half of the
Yes.
staff?
Yes.
Black and white?
We have African American is our restore manager, cashier, the majority of our restore staff. and then our interim construction manager as well.
So how many is that?
So if you take that out of, we have 8 permanent staff right now and 1 interim construction manager. So that would be 5 out of the 8.
Okay. All right. One final thing.
Sure.
Do your salaries? Are your salaries decent? You don't pay folks decent.
We do our best.
I know you probably would.
We do our best, and I will tell you, our salaries are based on a survey that is done of all habitats across the country, and an analysis is done every 2 years, and allows us to compare our salaries based on community size, the income of our local communities, the size of our organizations, our budget, the number of people that we serve. So our board is able to look at a salary comparison to make sure that we are in line with other habitats serving the same demographic and the same size community that we are, with similar budgets. So we work very hard to make sure that they are competitive, and we have been working to bring up all of our minimum salaries as well.
Okay, but you've not gotten all the minimums up. What's the lowest salary?
$11 an hour.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Commissioner Howell?
thank you.
In today's market, affordable housing is almost a misnomer with what it costs to build a house. A little quick math shows that you guys are building a house for $123 a square foot, or at least that's what these are. I want to commend you on, I don't know how you're doing it, but I commend you for doing it. And some of the other organizations need to take note that that's very good price per square foot these days.
We have a lot of very generous volunteers and donors that work with us to make that possible.
Commissioner Wynn?
Yes, sir, thank you. Mine's not going to be about salaries, okay? We know the answer to that, but when you just mentioned the word volunteer, the Restore facility I've been in, do you have volunteers that work there? Because I have a friend that's a retired person that works at a Restore, volunteers.
Yes.
No pay, in another community. Do you have volunteers that work at your Restore facility building?
Yes, we do. We have some that are coming in several days a week. All of our volunteers are done based on their own personal schedules. But we have a wonderful, consistent group of volunteers. We also work with our local CSEP Experience Works program, and so offering positions for seniors that are looking for training opportunities. And so we have 2 of those positions as well.
So you got three at the Restore building that are paid employees. Then you have additional, you've got a manager or a cashier and somebody else.
Right. So the ones that I listed before are all paid, and then on top of that, we have some volunteers, and then our senior employment program.
I knew I'd seen more than 3 people in there.
There's a lot of people. We stay very busy,
Yeah.
which we're grateful for.
Yeah, you do a good job. We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Tillman?
Yes, sir. Thank you for what you all do. As many folks know, President Jimmy Carter started Habitat for Humanity. He is now in hospice. Would you, I don't know what y'all's plans are as we move forward, but it would be a great honor to name that Restore in his honor, or whatever y'all are planning. If you just go back and consider something in his honor. He's been a great service for this nation and the state of Georgia. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. And that is a wonderful idea. We were fortunate to have him visit our habitat many, many years ago. And so we'll certainly look for a way to honor him as we continue to appreciate his dedication to Habitat for so many years.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones?
I want to congratulate you for being able to answer any and all questions that you got no pre-notification of getting. So,
well, thank you.
Job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Thank you for everything you continue to do for our community. And Commissioner Lucas is reminding me that you're a woman that we all can see. So we appreciate your efforts. And we do have a motion and second already. This time we'll ask for a motion for approval. Got a motion by Commissioner Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. All right, we did motions twice on that, that's good. Item 5A is an ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize a budget transfer within the tax assessor's office budget in amount of $40,000 from the salaries and wages full-time line item to the professional services line item, provide for contract professional services to assist with preparing the 2023 tax digest. Likewise, this is something we always do. If you'll see that building there, that building's about to be empty, and they'll be moving to our new location on Walnut Street. But this is a normal procedure where they are a little short staff and they hire out contract labor, and that amount is $40,000, and that'll be within their budget that they have operating there. So at this time, I entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any further questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and be sent to consent agenda. Item 6A is approval of grants. It's a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept an FAA airport infrastructure grant funded by the bipartisan infrastructure law in amount of up to $1,011,094 with no local match. That's the most important part. For the purpose of rehabilitating taxiway and C at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. At this time, we entertain a motion for approval. A motion by Commissioner Howard. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Lucas and Jones. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item 7A is a resolution of Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed for the sale of property located at 711 Smith Street, totaling approximately 1/1200 of an acre, to Raymond Barksdale for the fair market value of $4,416. This is what we discussed a little bit earlier, I believe, in our hearing. No, I'm sorry, it's not. This is another item. So we've included all the information. You can see a picture of it there. That's fair value, and that's a reasonable amount that we're requesting. So at this time, we entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any questions for our attorney? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Thank you, Ms. Beavers. Item 8A is a resolution authorizing the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority to expend rents held on behalf of Macon-Bibb County pursuant to the facility leases at Middle Georgia Regional Airport for the purpose of obtaining emergency roof repairs on the Robbins North facility in an estimated amount of approximately $276,541, of which is in the airport fund account. And most of you went to the SOAP celebration we had. That was at Robbins North, and you're well familiar with that building. They've had some issues there with some flooding that we need to take care of, and it's within our rights to do so. As you can tell, we have our attorney standing up front looking at me. We have Kevin Brown, who is the attorney on the Industrial Authority. We have Chair Robert Fountain, who is also here today in support of this item, and we need to take care of our part to make sure that Robbins North is taken care of. There is some insurance, I think funds available as well for partial, because there was some wind damage, so that final amount may be determined later, but it's not up to, it's up to this $276,541. Attorney McNeil, did I leave anything out or any clarity do you need to do?
Yes, sir. Just a couple of small points. First, just to remind the commission of the relationship that we have with respect to these leases. For the largest hangars that we have out there, we have a lease and sublease relationship with the Industrial Authority. We have the main lease. We own all the land at the airport, leased to the Industrial Authority, and then they sublease. In this case, it was to the State Properties Commission, who make the property available for Central Georgia Tech and for Robbins Air Force Base. The State Properties Commission pays rent to the airport, who holds all the rent from those 4 leases in trust for the county, and that rent money can only be spent for maintenance and repairs at these properties or otherwise at the airport at the direction of the county government. And so part of this is a request for the commission to bless the spending of what's quoted as $276,541 for the roof repair here. The other part of it is that under state law, any public works, construction, maintenance, or improvement that's over $100,000 would normally have to be bid out. Because of the severe nature of the water intrusion at this roof, there is an emergency provision in the state law that allows a direct hiring without a bid out process. And so there's a quote that's attached to this resolution, but the condition to do that, to utilize that provision, is that the fact that it's an emergency has to be entered on the minutes of the governing authority of the county, and then the commission has to ratify the contract. And so we're bringing it to you guys to ratify the contract and to make a record on the minutes that this is being pursued as a emergency purchase under the State Public Works Construction Contract Act.
Thank you for that information, Attorney
Yes, sir.
McNeil. At this time, we entertain a motion for approval. A motion by Commissioner Howell, second by Commissioner Jones. Any further questions? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries, will be sent to consent agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 8 minutes before 6 o'clock. This concludes our regular commission meeting of pre-commission meeting. There's no need to go into executive session that I'm aware of, so we'll adjourn this meeting until 6 o'clock. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, February the 21st, and the time is now 6:02. I'd like to welcome everyone here to the meeting. I'd like to officially call this to order, and we'll do like we always do. For those of you that can and will, please stand for the prayer. Our prayer tonight is going to be led by a good friend of mine, which is Pastor Eddie Durham from Covenant Church of Macon. That'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you would bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for all who are accounted for on tonight. I ask God that you would just continue to lead and guide with wisdom, that they would lead with righteousness and keen insight for the betterment of this city. I thank you, Father, that on tonight decisions will be made, progress will be made, and I thank you for looking over it and seeing to it that it is exactly what you desire to be done in this city. I thank you for always having your hand upon us as we seek you for this wise counsel on tonight. Your word tells us to pray for those in authority. And on tonight, we surround this meeting with prayer that your perfect will may be done. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm not aware of any presentations or announcements that we have tonight, but we do have approval of the minutes, which is item 6A, the approval of the minutes from February the 7th, which is our regular meeting. I get a motion to approve? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We don't have any public comments on agenda items. We do have a non-agenda item that we'll get to just a moment. There are no new business, but we do have an old business. This involves a floor amendment that we had for the last commission. As you may remember, there was a motion to add another $500,000 for some projects, litter removal, including some cameras. And there's also been an addition added for some additional funds to the Board of Elections. Is that correct? So this is a floor amendment, an ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to make a mid-year adjustment to the amended FY 2023 budget by amending various revenue lines to recognize an increased revenue received to date in the amount of $2,363,115.43, appropriating $3,842,644.57 from the general fund, and appropriating various expense line items in a total amount of $6,205,760 as specified herein. This time we entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Howell. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any discussion? Any questions? Here are no questions. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. That passes. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda does cover items A through GG. Commissioner Jones, you mentioned something about item R. I want to make a comment on that. Is that something you want removed to discuss in favor of, or you just want to make comments?
I'm going to be in favor of it. I just want to make a comment.
Okay. That's fine. Go ahead, sir.
I'm okay with annual participation goals. I would not be in favor of quotas. Annual participation goals are okay. I just, as far as I'm concerned, it should always be merit-based, never compromising quality. So with that thought in mind, I'll support that and the rest of the agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Wayne, did you have something on?
To see if we could pull out A and discuss that separately.
Item A, pull that out. That's the Carolyn Creighton Park, the camera system?
Yeah, the cameras.
Okay. We'll move that out. So this time we entertain a motion to approve the consent item B through GG.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Just as a point of order for the floor amendment that was just voted, typically there's a vote to change the legislation and then a second vote to approve as amended. And so I would suggest that that goes either vote on it again separately or put it on the consent agenda.
Okay. Anyone opposed putting it on the consent agenda? Okay. And we'll add item A, 9A to the consent agenda, and that will be item B through HH. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Fix that, I can add those letters. B through HH. We have a motion and second. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We're going to move on to item A, which is a resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing the purchase of multi-sensor dome cameras equipment from Adaptasolve, Inc., to be installed in downtown Macon, Carroll Creighton Park, and along the Riverwalk, in an amount not to exceed $700,000 to be paid from the sponsor program's school zone cameras. Anyone like to make a motion to approve that? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. We get a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. And now with you, Commissioner Wynn.
Yes, sir. I've had some time over the last week to think about this expenditure and these cameras, and I'm just not, my heart's not into it like it was when we first had the presentation. And I think all of us commissioners may have gotten an email from another company that was interested and said they could do it more for less, basically. I just don't know how this is going to work and how it will help in our fight against really crime is what this is for, I think. And I want to do all we can to fight crime in our community. I'm just not sure that this is the right way to do it. This is the expenditure we should have for that.
Right. Let me address a couple of things. Number one, there may have been an email sent out, and I'll respond to that directly. Of course, the sheriff is requesting these cameras. We are requesting these cameras. Number one, we have about 500,000 people that will be visiting our community in March over a 10-day period of time, and these cameras will be beneficial in the future for those. We also have a area of Spring Street through MLK and all the way through Plum Street that we had about 800,000 visitors visit during Christmas, and this is what this is for. These cameras also hook up with the camera's flock system, the sheriff's flock system that he is going to be wanting to do to have automobiles traced. The citizens or the companies downtown could use the extra cameras there to make sure that we're maintaining safety there, as well as make sure if there's an incident that does happen that we capture all of that. In particular, there was a company that reached out this last week, but just give you a quick comparison that I have here. The Verkada company has over 1,000 employees, over $200 million, and a support team larger than that company even has an IT of approximately 67 employees. They have 10 people here in Georgia that are working directly with us. They've already agreed to hire a minority company here to do all the installations and can do that here. And that's something that we emphasize to them, a need in our community. And they're already on board to do that in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and I can give you the company's name. When you're looking at the cloud service they provide and the cameras they provide, it's easy for someone to look at a bid that's already been awarded or submitted and go back and say they can do it at a cheaper price. We all can do that, right? If you have a contract out there to build a building and somebody does it for $9 million, I can promise you I can do it for $8.5 million if I already saw their bid. But we are confident we selected the right company. We've done our due diligence on the companies that do this and do it right. We have our own Macon Housing Authority here locally and people that we've discussed in Fort Valley State University. You can see recently Baldwin County, Houston County, other communities have used these systems, and they've been able to have some great results as it relates to arrest and capture of folks that are having issues in the community. So certainly I think our downtown businesses are excited about this. We believe it's something that could be to allow for better police response times that we have out there and help with some of the shortages we have, despite all the other things, the examples we gave at the last meeting, whereas if you had a child that was missing or maybe you had a perpetrator that was out there and you had a picture of that person, you could actually post that onto the cameras and it would notify if they appeared in a certain area. So certainly the sheriff is asking for this. It's hard to be a proponent of public safety and not give them all the resources and tools that they need. This is certainly my recommendation in our effort to fight public safety, to advocate for public safety. But at the same time, I think this is a good use of the funds. So this is not coming out of our general fund. This is coming out of funds that we have from the school zone cameras, which is specifically used for public safety. So those are just some of the reasons that I have. But as far as one company over the other, this is a state-approved contract, which means they give the best price, and we believe they give the best service. And it came as a direct recommendation of Santel Smith, who's our sergeant we rely on as a criminal analyst here in Macon, who handles our shot spotter and all other needs. And he went around with the company for every single site to make sure it was adequately placed or will be placed in a position that's going to provide us the best safety that we can. So that's my explanations. I know I've got a couple more lights on. Commissioner Howell's got his light
Wait
on, and
just a second.
I expect you to.
I kind of, with all due respect, I kind of expected all this conversation because we kind of heard most all of that last week about that. Was this company that sent us an email, and you must know about it, did they have a chance to bid on this, or did they bid on this? Do we know? I mean,
As we addressed last time, this was not an RFP where we put it out because they are a state contract. But we've got the company here, Verkada, tonight. If you want to talk with them, I see the representatives here. They'll be happy to answer any questions. But this was not an RFP. This is using the state contract.
Okay, you can stop. It wasn't an RFP. I don't want to get into that, but I don't mean any disrespect to cut you off.
I'm giving you some leeway.
Pardon me?
I'm giving you some leeway. Go ahead.
I just think that someone asked me, I've got text and emails about how we're going to monitor these and what good it's going to do. And it's not going to be ready this year for cherry blossom. Let's just be frank about that.
Yeah, we have that every year, so I'm looking for long-term, not just a simple solution for this
Oh,
year.
I know. And same thing with the Christmas lights and all
That's
that.
correct.
I realize that. Like I said at the beginning, I want to do everything I can to fight crime. I'm just not sure if this is the right use of that money. And that's just my feeling. That's all I want to say about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on this right now.
Commissioner Howell?
Mayor, you covered some of the same things that I was gonna say. First and foremost, I think the sheriff is spearheading this, not us. And he knows what works with the systems he already has in place, not necessarily us. And he feels like this is the right company. And the other thing too, as I recall from the, what we heard last week, is it's not just we're getting cameras for this money, we're getting 10 years of support for this money, with this money. And that's a huge thing. And when you start talking about 10 years out, I certainly want to do business with a company that's reputable and been around a while.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. Commissioner Lucas?
My question, I did hear from some people who were concerned. We're always hearing from people, and the amount of money was a concern for some, and of course they want safety and all of this. They don't quite understand. They don't quite have as much information as they need. And so they asked if I would ask that we look a little further into this, see what the Sheriff's Department's plan is, as much as they can share with us before we give final approval. Is there, is this something that we have to vote on tonight? Or could we, I really would like to hear from the Sheriff's Department, even if they had some things that they didn't want to share publicly, some things that they could share with us, because we have not heard
I
from
think
them.
because of the security nature of this is why the sheriff hadn't been here. I can tell you, I spoke with the sheriff today. He still is recommending that this happen. His officers have spent time. Commissioner Tillman, you can be back for this vote? Okay. Make sure he wasn't leaving. He has spent time going along with Centil Smith, which is a sergeant, at every single ways. I've heard from members of this commission who have got complaints from their own citizens about aggressive panhandlers and people who throw bricks through business windows and we never catch them, and maybe they come back the next day. We've had a situation where someone, an unsolved case, where someone had a shooting down at MLK and Cherry Street, where had we had this camera, we would know exactly who the person was, the automobile was, and we've been able to capture that person. Multiple instances. As you see, every community that uses these cameras, including Columbus, throughout the installation of these cameras, their homicide rate and their solving rate went way down. We talked about that last week. We're in 2023, and unfortunately we can't do old school police work all the time and have as many officers that we would love to have. One way to do that is have eyes and ears out there in the community that we don't presently have now. This allows officers to be able to the sheriff to put his resources where necessary in certain areas where we're having trouble spots, but also it enables them to look at areas before they get there to see what type of situation they may be coming into, which provides an extra police protection for our men and women in blue. So this is a state contract. I'm asking you to go ahead and approve it tonight. We want to go ahead and get these local vendors to install that while they have time to do so. And we think time is of the essence because we need to have these cameras out there to help provide safety. I think that we do ourselves a disservice if the sheriff is asking us for something we're not providing to them. And I think that the fact that it's on a state contract allows us to do this. We've done it on several occasions for several things. And certainly we believe this is the best technology out there. And so does Fort Valley State, so does Macon Housing Authority, who has already come and gave us information last week about it, and the many others that we gave you here. And like I said, we have the company here tonight. If you have any questions from them, they'll be happy to answer it as well. But I do know that from time to time, people second guess, especially when they think they can give a better price after they receive the bid, and that's just a problem that we typically do not like to get into. So I'm not sure if I answered all your questions or not, but I would have had the sheriff here if anybody had contacted me this week to tell me there was any issue whatsoever. But when we have a consent agenda and I have everybody here do that, and I've received no telephone calls throughout the week to ask me anything else or ask for any additional information, then I'm assuming that your vote is good from last week. Otherwise, I'd have the sheriff here. But I can tell you in my place and on my word that I talked to him no less than 3 hours ago, and he's a supporter of this. He wants us to go ahead and go through with so we can get our team on the field. The attorneys are here today. They've been in contact with them. Our county manager has been advocating to make sure that we use local. And Cottage here today, he can give you exactly who's going to be doing the installation, who are local mine-owner contractors. So I think now's the time to do this and to go ahead and take care of our public safety needs. Commissioner Jones, did you have a thought?
Yes, sir. I just want to say the presentation was solid. We asked some very poignant questions. I posed the question, if it goes out after 9.5 years, what happens? They replace it. So I think the program's solid, and the sheriff, as has already been pointed out, spearheaded this. He knows what he needs. I was very impressed with the presentation, so I'll be glad to support it.
Commissioner Tillman?
Yeah, my point remains the same, and I just like a refresher on where the cameras are going to be located, because as I stated last week, I didn't have true heartburns on this because I do know that we need cameras in certain areas. But I did not approve or like the fact that cameras were just going to be popping up everywhere, in particular Carolyn Creighton's Park. So if the attorney or the sponsor can share to point out the locations once again, because although I agree with 1 or 2 locations, I did not want to hinder this entire process. I have been contacted by people as well that wanted to even do a presentation to you, Mr. Mayor. They were not sure that they had an opportunity to truly share their knowledge and wisdom. And matter of fact, it was a company that we're already doing business with in Motorola. And just to say that they did say that that they thought that after a few years, these cameras would just be what they call bricks. There's nothing that we're going to be able to do with them. And these were folks that we were already doing business with. So the gentleman, I did encourage him to reach out to you. I encouraged him to come tonight. He said he was from Macon, but he wasn't in town. And I expressed to him that, my sentiments and the heartburns about this issue was a particular location. So let's get those locations again, and let's hear them as to where these cameras are going to be and how much oversight will the commission actually have. And these are things that come up sometimes when you have a committee of the whole, because once we vote on something, how much leeway we as a commission going to have versus is the sheriff going to have total say after this? Because usually in situations like this, he is here. He does make himself available for that. So I want locations again.
Yes, sir. And just to tell you that the gentleman you spoke with did call the sheriff. The sheriff called me. He says we do not use Motorola any longer. And that particular information that he gave him was not verifiable to the sheriff. But I can tell you that it's like comparing Apple iPhone with one that I have on my desk that I make myself. There's no comparison. and the IT help, and the fact that we can upgrade this system all the way up to 10 years for new technology tells me all I need to know. Besides the fact that they have over 1,000 employees, this company has 67 employees, and the way they're funded. I'm trying to, do what I can to make sure our community is safe as I can. The sheriff has asked for these resources like he has all the time, and we're trying to provide those resources to him. I think we may be able to pull those maps up there, but I can tell you that the sheriff and his team selected each pole that those go on to and how the system was maintained. So, we able to pull that up or not? 6 seconds. Okay.
While he's pulling it up, Matt, from the presentation last week, the proposal is for 8 cameras on the Riverwalk, 36 cameras downtown, and 20 cameras in Carroll and Creighton Park. And so in the presentation last week, we gave you an overview of where those would be. So here we go. Here's downtown. We're proposing, with the sheriff is proposing 36 cameras. Next slide. On the Riverwalk, 8 cameras. And Carroll and Creighton Park, I'm sorry, that's Riverwalk with 8 cameras. And then Carroll and Creighton Park is the remaining 20.
Yeah, and as a follow-up, I think that's very important because some misinformation did go out from other folks that I heard saying, oh, Macon-Bibb's about to install cameras all over the city, and people don't know. So I don't think businesses, I hadn't heard from any of them that have an issue with the cameras downtown, the Riverwalk, women and children, and, and I just look at it, I understand that as a safety issue. Carroll and Creighton Park, because usually most folks are there on the weekend. I still don't understand why we're putting them there. But like I say, it's not it's not anything that's going to give me heartburn. But I just don't support the Carroll and Creighton Park portion. And I think I'll just talk to the sheriff about that.
I think that'd be good. I just want to read what the sheriff said on the article we commented at. We can't have deputies everywhere at this time, but these cameras will help us, enable us to document any type of events that happen, and that he was on board with the cameras of over 50 surveillance cameras and popular hotspots. And I think the reason the Carroll and Creighton Park was one of those is because mainly we have 500,000 people that we expect to be coming in and out of there in the next 10 days in March, and that's one of those things. And we have other festivals and events down there that's important to do so. These cameras are for to reactionary for those type things in the event that something happened, or since we have an Amber Alert or something that we need to have those on. So we're following the sheriff's lead here. I still like to approve these tonight so they can get busy installing these. You can talk to the sheriff if you want to about other locations and that, but they are driving this train because it is their job to do public safety, our job to provide the funding, and he is a constitutional officer, and he will be bringing the Fox system back that he's trying to get a grant for, if not asking this group. But I can tell you all of our neighboring counties are using these and have been very successful about that, and I think every day that we don't move forward on this, then we're risking further injury to some of the people that we have in our community. Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Yeah, I wanted to iterate my will to vote on this tonight. I've reached out in the past week to a couple of folks that are involved in the Business Improvement District, and specifically spoke to Josh Rogers at Newtown Macon. He says that their board is incredibly excited about this. The business owners that I've spoken to were excited to read about it and found some of the editorializing, frankly, in the media to be a bit bizarre. But I've reached out seeking feedback and had a whole bunch of positive feedback from businesses in the downtown corridor in particular. So I just wanted to reiterate that and hope we can vote on it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams?
Did you say me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to say this again, that I certainly support any efforts that we make, and that means you, Mr. Mayor, the sheriff, all of us make to increase the safety in our community and fight crime. I hope that this is going to help. I hope that proves me wrong with any questions I had for it. I plan to support it because I want to help for the safety of our community, and I just want people to know that it's not about that. I want to know how we're going to find these people these cameras show us. But we'll see that. We'll see that in the long run. So I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Watkins?
And again, appreciate it. I think in general, me and the rest of the commission are generally in favor of adding cameras to, generally speaking, in favor of adding cameras to increase public safety. We kind of get the concept on the surface. But that second layer, I think, is what we're trying to get to. How things are gonna work, what are we doing, what is the overarching plan? Because we're still kind of unclear on that, at least I am. Like, I don't know if this is, I assume we're always expanding, and my assumption that these 70 cameras are the beginning of a pilot program to install cameras on a county-wide fashion. And this is the beginning, but that, I guess that's a question. Is that where we're going? And if so, have we came up with figures and a time frame for, I guess, the additional rollouts around the community?
Well, every community that used these that we've been looking at, in particular the last one that we looked at was Columbus, and I talked to their mayor. They've been very successful, but also they started out in like a pilot program to make sure they were working correctly, make sure that the company did what they said they were going to do, monitor them, and they were very pleased with it. Fort Valley State the same way, and they've increased the number of cameras we have. We don't have any projected budget. We've asked them to look for a couple of other locations where we expect large groups of people to, public spaces where people are at, and to give some potential pricing in the future for that. But we haven't allocated any budget. We don't have any plans right now until such time as these get up and running to request this commission to consider any others. And again, this is based on data provided by the sheriff and intel that he gives us on where he likes to see these cameras at and how best they're going to work with the system that he has and spots that he has. Some of these cameras, like I said, are already existing in Macon-Bibb County.
So another question. Currently, there are cameras that exist in our community now?
That's correct.
And the sheriff, how many, do we know that?
I don't ask the sheriff. It's something he does for security, and he monitors those. He has a staff, but I know that there's cameras out there because I've been able to watch them with them on occasion. They're at various corners where drug activities happen at, and various stores where there's issues at, and of course we've got some in some of the housing places that we have here in our community. But I really don't want to get into those types of facts. That's a security risk and jeopardize our investigations.
I'm sorry, we just showed we just showed a picture of literally all the locations where we're gonna put cameras. So, but moving on, because we've made mention of the flock system and how this ties into the flock system. What's the timeline of us learning more about this system and I guess those tie-ins?
The sheriff is waiting on a grant to get notification of whether or not he received the grant. Him and his office have been looking at this for about a year now. He has secured the pricing, the locations. Some of these are portable, some of these are mounted. But until he gets the funding, he's not coming back to this commission. If the funding falls through, he's going to come to a presentation to this commission with a request to us to purchase cameras in certain areas. These systems work on, the Fox system works basically on automobiles that move. And they pick up tag numbers. They can tell you go from point A to point B. They also have a camera on there as well. You can see the car, see the activity in a car. But the success rate just in the state of Georgia alone has been tremendous where these Fox systems and these other cameras have been put in place. And we are seeing some great results, and I think that's where we're headed.
And I don't disagree. Again, I think the technology use is going to be what we're doing. But so the flock system, will that just only be downtown as well, or will it cover the community?
That'll be out throughout the community and the thoroughfares that people typically travel. You know, you can imagine where they'll be all over on the main highways, and they're not necessarily systems you put in neighborhoods. We're not trying to monitor people's private behavior in their neighborhoods, but from time to time when the incidents happen, people leave the scene in a stolen car. Perhaps they get into a car with a small child and they drive off, or they commit an armed robbery and they go in an area, and all we got is just a certain type of car and make and model, and they can actually pull that up on the system, and we can get a good indication of where they travel to and whether they're passing through our community or not. This is going to enable us to tie into eventually other communities for people who come from our community that are elsewhere committing crimes and vice versa. So that's the sheriff driving that. The flock is not before you today. We're talking about the Verkada system, but certainly they work well together, and the sheriff, this is his recommendation. Commissioner Jones.
You mentioned to us before, and I think somebody brought up costs. We've collected $758,000 from the school zones, and this costs $700,000. So we're not even spending all of that. So at this point, I'd like to call for the question.
Okay. We have a motion to call with a question by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. This time we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please. We have a motion second. Okay. Well, that just called the question. I'm sorry. No. I think we already did the motion. Yes. Okay. We did the motion. Yeah. We're going back to the motion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for all the information tonight. I appreciate the questions. Certainly, we want to make sure that people are always have all the information they want. I received a lot of calls, mostly all compliments from people in the area downtown that have had issues, and thanking the commission for taking a proactive step to provide them some more security. So thank you for the vote tonight. And this time we've got one other item. We've got a person who'd like to speak on a non-agenda item. Mr. Richard, is it Jones? Thank you, Mr. Jones, for being here tonight, being so patient. And Mr. Jones will want to talk about a cemetery, which is called Cedar Ridge. And he wants to talk to the commission about that as a non-agenda item. Thank you, sir. You've got 5 minutes to talk to the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. We have a situation here in Bibb County, which is off Houston Avenue, and it's a cemetery called Cedar Ridge. And it's really deplorable, but at this point, we're trying to do a little maintenance out there, and I was wondering maybe if you could find out in your budget that you may be able to do a first-time cleanup out there, a real good cleanup. It is a private cemetery, so that would be the issue here at this point. But it does join Evergreen Cemetery. And maybe at a later date, you might want to see fit that you could probably join the two together. But we have a lot of people that were South Macon people out there from the 1800s that have done a lot for this Macon-Bibb area. And we also have some World War I and World War II veterans out there. And the graves have been covered for a number of years. And I was just wondering what you may think on this issue of maybe doing a one-time cleanup, and then at a later date, maybe think about joining it with Evergreen Cemetery.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to have our attorneys look into that. As you can imagine, with property that we do not own, it makes it very challenging. We have a couple other cemeteries we'd love for us to have cleanups there at our expense that we're unable to do. A lot of times, these cemeteries start out with well intentions, but it's not a good business model, and therefore that perpetuity that they're supposed to have to maintain it, they don't do that too much, and it falls on the county and taxpayers to do that. I think one consideration you may have, since you're talking about a one-time cleanup, with the military folk that you say that are there, I think there could be a push for a voluntary group, and I'm sure a lot of our folks would be willing to participate in that. Even some companies out there. And I'm just adding a couple of comments. We're not here to discuss it. I'm just adding a couple of comments, and I'll be happy to talk to you offline. But I will ask our attorneys so they can give the commission some information on what we could do or could not do based on the fact that this is not property that we own, that we have any access to, or whether or not it's something that could be condemned at a later time or other things. But I'm going to ask the attorneys just to prepare just a one-page memorandum on what our roles and responsibilities is as far as properties like that. Right now, we're prohibited from doing that, but for special ordinances allow us to do that in certain cases where we go through a court process with blighted properties and dumpings and things like that. So I appreciate you being here today. I know you reached out to one of the commissioners today, so thank you for being an advocate for those out there. And we certainly will have our attorneys look at it to bring to the commission and see if there's anything that we could do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, sir.
At this time, I believe that concludes everything that we have on the agenda tonight. Commissioner Lucas, you have a point of personal privilege? Yes. Okay.
Yes, I do. I have to say something. I know we're not supposed to respond on the items that citizens speak to us about, but some years ago, I mean the city council was actively involved in supporting groups that worked on some of these cemeteries, and I think they found there were like 32 cemeteries, some that you don't even know they're there because they're so overgrown. And the problem is that the law grandfathers in and does not mandate, it's state law, does not mandate anything in those cemeteries, the older ones. And in many cases, all of the relatives have passed away, so there's nobody really to go and maintain. So I would be glad to work with anybody, and I think the Macon Cemetery Preservation Corporation, I know they are a small group, but that's part of the goal that they were set up for, and that's to assist in helping groups to come up with a plan for doing something with these cemeteries, which can be, and you don't want to speak of them as beautiful, but they are. In a way, they are beautiful. And if you go in and you see all of the stone and the designs and all of that, we really do need to do more. And so I support what they're doing. The other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to thank those who participated in the Pedestrian Safety Review Board summit this morning. I know several have said that they wanted to come, they couldn't make it. Commissioner Howell did come for a few minutes, but it was very successful. And many of you know that over the last several weeks, there have been some news stories that have been done about the Pedestrian Safety Review Board that kind of gave the impression that that board that all of you have supported hadn't accomplished a lot, and that is absolutely not true. And today, that summit showed a lot of the stuff. Our consultant, Dr. Dallas, made mention of the fact that Macon-Bibb County is one of the few places that has a Pedestrian Safety Review Board, and other communities are trying to pattern a similar group after Macon-Bibb County. We have received awards, national awards and state awards, because of the work that's been done and through the support that this group, through approving Complete Streets program and Vision Zero, which are international programs that call for you to do everything you can to increase the safety, pedestrian safety in your community. So that particular, we want to thank Communications because they taped that summit, and it is available online for you if you'd like to review that, and you'll get an idea of some of the things that you never thought of that we, in fact, were responsible for pushing. And one of the main things that was mentioned over and over was support of this administration in allocating $100,000 additional dollars last year and $500,000 additional dollars this year to increase pedestrian safety. So we want to thank you, and people were just very enthusiastic upon hearing that. And also the state is now working with us. GDOT is now working with us, and they'll be announcing some plans very soon for Gray Highway There's already some things in place for Panona Avenue and the Eisenhower Parkway. So we want to thank all of you for your support, and we will try and make sure that you're always kept in the loop, that you're informed of what the Pedestrian Safety Review Board is doing and what we're advocating. And we look forward to continuing to work with all of you on increasing the safety in Macon-Bibb County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas, and thank you for leading that effort. I know that you, from time to time, take a few shots, like many of us, and sometimes you do more often than others. But we appreciate your effort in leading that. It is a good board. There are some tweaking that we need to do, and we talked about that already. So I'm looking forward to working together and making sure that we bring back to the commission how we spent that money, and how they're proposing to spend that money, so they can make the final decision. But it's just a small start, but I think it's a great effort, and I'm looking forward to continue to work with GDOT. I'm not sure how things happened before this particular group got together, but from what I hear, it's a vast improvement of our relationship with GDOT, and it's something that we're going to have to do. So I appreciate all your effort, and I got Commissioner Wynn.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like Commissioner Lucas. I want to say that I would like to help with the cemetery issues and the cleanup. I just found out this week that there's a cemetery. It's called Martha Bowman Cemetery right on the edge of my neighborhood. I didn't know that. So I'm going to go look at that and see what's there, but I'm sure it's overgrown. But the thing I wanted to say tonight is that, as we all know, our only Georgian president, President Jimmy Carter, is currently in transition and under hospice care. And I'd like to ask us all to keep him and his family in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Commissioner Wynn and Commissioner Tillman said it as well as I possibly could. If we could all just keep President Carter and his family and his friends and admirers in prayer as he transitions. He's given this community a whole lot. I'm not sure he would be a household name without Capricorn Records, and I'm not sure Capricorn would have been a household name without him, but he's given the world a whole lot more than his love of music. And we're just, I think, as a community, incredibly grateful for his service and incredibly grateful for what he means to our Macon identity. So our prayers are with you, to the Carter family, and our gratitude is forever with you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Clark. At this time, if there's no further business that brings us before here, this meeting is hereby adjourned.